Good morning, good evening, good afternoon guys, and welcome back to my channel. I hope that you're having a beautiful day and that you guys are staying safe and that you guys are well. Now, this is a very female video, if you haven't guessed by the title, and we're gonna get personal. I'm just gonna put that out there just now, but I recently have had my period.
Wow.
And it kind of made me realise how much I've learned for swimming and having a period. And it made me think, like,
why have I never done a video on this before?
And so I'm doing it now. So this is like my guide to having a period and swimming. And when I went on YouTube, there was like literally nothing out there for swimmers. Like there was the occasional like how to swim and have your period, but they were talking about like going in a pool, not like training or racing and stuff like that. And I feel like there's a lot of things that I've learned over the years. How long have I had my period? I've had a period for 9 years now.
Wow. Yeah.
So I have mastered the art of training on my period. I've mastered the art of racing on my period. So I thought I would share this to any young girls out there, particularly swimmers who want to know. I feel like swimming can be a quite daunting sport to do and get your first period. So I never had a big sister, so I'm going to be the big sister to you guys, for you guys, if you don't want to talk to anyone about it. But that makes me want to say, like, don't be ashamed of getting your period, because at the end of the day, like 50% of the population gets a period, and so it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's something that you should be able to talk more openly about. And I think that, like, I've always had a male coach, but I've never been like shy to talk about my period with my coach, just because they know that I have a period. I know I have a period, and I don't think you should be ashamed of it. So I'm gonna include timestamps in the description box below, but I'm basically going to talk about period protection, and I'm also going to talk about training, racing, tracking, and iron, because I feel like those are some really important things to talk about. So I will include timestamps below. But the first thing I want to talk about is like free bleeding. And I feel like that this is really more taboo than talking about like tampons or something. I got my first period at a pool. In fact, it was like just before I went to a pool, and I was like racing. So first time I had my period, like I wasn't going to learn how to use tampons on my first period. Like probably didn't even know what a was. Can I say on the internet? I don't know. Probably didn't know what a foo-foo was at this point. Like I was 10 or 11, so I wouldn't have had a clue how to use a tampon. So I used pads to begin with, like what most people use when they first start their period, but they're not exactly waterproof. And so yeah, I just went in the pool with nothing. And like, I just want to put it out there, like that is okay if your period isn't heavy, because the water pressure like temporarily stops the flow, but your problem comes from when you get out the pool. So yeah, like free bleeding does kind of work in the water, but yeah, like just be very wary and be very quick when you get out the water. Like don't be hanging about chatting to people, like go straight for your towel and go straight to clean up. But I wouldn't advise it, just because like it is embarrassing, even though it shouldn't be. And also like it's just not as clean and it's not as nice, I don't think. So if you're like starting out, don't feel too pressured if you don't know how to use tampons, because like at the end of the day, like we've all been there where we've not known how to use a tampon. And like when you're in the water, like there's not going to be like a big red trail flowing behind you. Like the water should temporarily, because of the pressure difference, it should temporarily stop your flow. But obviously this isn't a long-term thing to rely on. This is like when you start your period. So the next thing I want to talk about is tampons. Hang on, I'm gonna go and get one. Yeah, so I feel like this is the most common way of like period protection. It's a tampon. I moved on to these, graduated from pads and moved on to periods. It's like leveling up in like a computer game or something. So yeah, tampons, look, I don't like pads and I don't like tampons, which I'll cover in a minute, but tampons are your solution to training. So I used to have like loads of tampons in like a little toiletry bag kind of thing, like a small makeup bag just in my swimming bag, because one, you can never be too careful, like you just don't know when things are gonna strike, and two, like I hate being the person that somebody asks, have you got a tampon, and you have to say no. Like I hate being that person. So even now I don't use tampons, but I still have tampons in my bag just because one, like people may need them, and two, like just because I don't use them like doesn't mean I still don't have them kicking about the house. Yeah, so I kind of needed to use tampons to train because, like I said before, free bleeding isn't really a long-term effective thing to do. So these are like your perfect thing. You can get them applicator, you can get them non-applicator, and they're basically just like cotton wool that goes up your and kind of like absorbs all the blood so it doesn't come out. The one thing I'm gonna say, hang on, I should just open this and show you, but it's a bit weird. See if my neighbours walk past the window now, they're going to be like, why is she holding a tampon up to a camera? So basically, this is a Tampax Pearl Compact, I think. And yeah, like it's a plastic applicator one. You just pull it out and it's literally like just a normal tampon. You just... And yeah, so that's what your tampon looks like. And it's just like, it's basically just cotton wool. And I feel like whenever I see a tampon, I always just think of Rebecca Adlington starting a fire with one in I'm a Celebrity. Does anybody else think of that?
I've got a tampon. Can I set my tampon on fire?
You know what? I would try it.
Tampon. Try it, go on, try it for a laugh. I think we should go for the fluffy end.
Fluffy? You're the fluffy end.
Let's go for the fluffy
Go for the
end.
fluffy end.
Right, let's try and fluff it up.
Let's fluff this.
This is brilliant.
There you go.
Wait,
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes!
Yes.
Yes! Yes!
Go on.
Yes!
But yeah, like the one thing that you need to remember with tampons is making sure that your string is tucked into your swimsuit, because when you bend over for a dive or when you do a tumble turn, it can be a little bit embarrassing to have your string like sticking out of your swimsuit. Swimsuits are not exactly modest, and so yeah, like just be very careful that your string's not hanging out. But these are class for swimming, like amazing. They like open up, stop the flow, blah blah blah. Like I don't need to explain what a tampon is, but like these are your options for swimming. But I used to not get on very well with tampons, and they used to like really dry me out. It's probably getting a bit TMI, but I don't like how much, like I didn't like non-applicator tampons, and I also didn't like cardboard applicator tampons. Like I liked the plastic applicator tampons just because they were a little bit easier to use. So that would be a top tip. But I was very conscious of one, how expensive they are, and two, how bad for the planet they are. Like it's plastic, it's got a plastic wrapper, and this isn't overly like you just don't know what's on it. So I looked and looked and looked around, and then like I tried so many different types of tampons. Tampax Pearl was just the one that I got on with the most, just because of how smooth like the plastic actually was. But I felt like really aware that I was using so much plastic and it was costing me so much. Like you don't realise how much you pay for having a period. Like it is unreal. And obviously Scotland now has free period product, so like that's great. But I think that there is a better option, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. The one thing I also want to say before I move on to my solution is the swimsuit that you wear. So like if you have a period, you will at some point have a leak, have a little bit of a leakage system, like have a little bit of a leakage. I always wear a darker swimsuit and a dark lined swimsuit. So I have a Jolene swimsuit that's like burgundy that is black lined. I wear that because there's nothing worse than staining the inside lining. I have a black swimsuit that has a white lining inside, and I'm just like, why would you do that? It's just so silly. But yeah, like a lighter coloured swimsuit, if you have a leakage, will show up. So yeah, just be wary of that like when you're turning. So my advice would be to wear a darker coloured swimsuit, particularly if you're free bleeding or if you are prone to leaks, or if you're not fully used to having a period yet, just always wear a dark swimsuit on your period and nobody will notice. Like, nobody noticed that I always wore a dark swimsuit on my period. Like, they're probably going to notice now that I've said that online, but yeah, like, wear a dark swimsuit on your period. I'm going to get this out of my hand because, like, my neighbours walk past, they're going to be like, what is she doing? So in terms of tampons, I used to change them when I got out of the pool because I felt like the water kind of absorbed into it. So it was a little bit of a nuisance, like having to change your tampon so much, but like you just kind of had to put up with it. But you don't have to put up with it, because I found a magic little thing called a menstrual cup. And I've done a video on my channel before. The first week I tried a menstrual cup. This one I've never actually used, I don't think. So a menstrual cup is the saving grace of periods. Like, you guys, you don't understand how much this has changed my life. And I feel like that's so stupid to say because it's a little bit of silicone in the shape of a cup. And it's honestly just incredible. So basically what this is it's like a glorified tampon. You shove it up and it collects your blood. So this can stay in for up to 12 hours, whereas a tampon can only stay in for up to 8 hours. But I used to have to change mine after coming out of the pool. So I used to like always feel like I had to change my tampon when I got out of the pool, which was really weird, but I just felt like it was full. I don't know if it was the water absorbed it or whatever, but I just felt like it needed to be changed after I came out of the pool. So it was really annoying, like the amount, like you had to be thinking about your period at training and it was just annoying. But then I found this little guy, and honestly, you put it in like when you wake up in the morning or when you go to bed at night, and that's all you have to think about. That's the only time you think about your period. And like, you're probably thinking like, that is not a lot, but like you don't realise how little you bleed. I feel like when I was having tampons, like when I was using tampons, like I thought I bled a lot. But now, like, I've realised that I don't actually bleed that much. It's just that the tampon doesn't fully absorb. It's just on the outside. So this is my solution for you guys. You will never have to think about your periods ever again during the day. The only time you have to think about your period is like morning and night, like twice a day. That's it. And to be honest, like, it's so much easier. I don't have to think about changing this around training. It's up there. It stays up there all day. Like, it could stay up there for 2 sessions and I wouldn't have even had to think about changing it. But honestly, you guys, like, this is a saving grace. So basically, this is made out of medical grade silicone. I haven't spent a single penny on my period this year because I bought one of these. It's cheaper, it's better for the environment because you're not wasting all the plastic. Honestly, this is just a saving grace. So basically, I've done a video about this on my channel already. I'll link it in the corner. But you basically, it just works like a tampon. You fold it like that and then you shove it up and it pops open in your, and it like stays up there and just collects it, and then you just pull it out when you want to empty it and then put it in the sink. You wash it and then you put it back in. Like, you literally only need one of these. This is just a game changer for any human being. I was going to say swimmers, but for any human being. Like, you literally don't have to think about your period anymore at training. You just have to think about it in the morning and at night. Like, I've never actually used this one, I don't think, which is a bit weird, but like, I always have the same one that I use. Like, I have 2 and one of them is like the love of my life, and yeah, I've never used this one, but honestly, fully recommend. And it's cheaper, it's better for the planet, it's easier, it's so much less hassle. Just fully recommend it, guys. So let's move on to training and your period. Like, I feel like I've already touched on this a little bit, but make sure you wear a darker swimsuit just in case you do have any leaks or mishaps. Like, I always wear dark underwear on my period, so it's the same when I swim. Like, I have been wearing brighter swimsuits in the past, like now that I use a menstrual cup, because I know that I'm not going to have a leak. But yeah, like, just play it safe and wear a darker swimsuit. Like, I'm not saying you have to wear black all the time, like, nobody died, but like, just maybe like a darker swimsuit, like a navy or like a deep red or something like that, just to be on the safe side. Training, make sure that you're fueling more when you're on your period. Like, your body's replenishing its uterus lining, so make sure that you're fueling more effectively when you're on your period. Like, I feel like at the very start of my, like, when I first got my period, I used to have to like have Lucozade at training rather than just juice, because I was really struggling to like keep my glycogen stores up because of my period. I don't know if it's a myth or not, but I was told that you burn more when you're on your period, so just be aware of that, and like be aware of the fact that your body's trying to do a natural process as well as train. So yeah, make sure you're really fueling well. And if you have like, say, really bad period pain, like I've never really had too bad a period pain. Like, I've had to get out of training once or twice to get paracetamol, but I always keep paracetamol in my bag. I would keep it in with my tampons. Now I don't really take many tampons, so it's always just in my bag anyway. But if you have to get out to go and get paracetamol and then hop back in, like, it's fine, but don't use it. Like, I've never really seen anyone use it as an excuse, but like, yeah, just hop out, sort yourself out and come back in. And I think most coaches would be like understanding of that. But yeah, like, those are my tips for training. Definitely, I feel like nutrition is key. I will talk about that a little bit more when I talk about iron, but like, make sure you're really, really on point with your nutrition and making sure that you're eating enough carbs, eating enough protein afterwards, because you don't want to, like, it's not a nice feeling when you haven't got enough glycogen and you're trying to train and you go all dizzy. Like, the amount of times that I would go dizzy on my period when I was younger, like, just because I didn't understand that I had to eat a lot of food. But yeah, those are my tips. And for racing, try not to think about it too much. Honestly, like, I feel like I used to worry far too much that either people would know or like it would affect my race. You actually can race really well when you're on your period, and I think a lot of science suggests that you actually have a better, I'm not sure if this is fact, but there's something about training on your period that you can know more. Hang on, I'll tell you. So when you're on your period, like, you are at more of a risk of getting ill, so just make sure that you're looking after your body. Your mental, like, cognitive function is generally better on your period, but like, in your period you have the best training phase, so from that, like, you'll have the best racing, I guess, but you do have increased inflammation, so recovery is really important when you are racing. Like, make sure you're swimming down maybe a little bit longer if you're racing on your period. Make sure that you're doing maybe a little bit more foam rolling, and yeah, just make sure, like, if you're racing, you can never have too many carbs. So I would always err on the side of caution if, like, I am on my period, like, maybe have a little bit more carbs, good fats as well. Like, I feel like people neglect healthy fats, but like things like nuts on poolside, like, obviously if you're allergic to nuts, don't have them because it's probably not going to be very good, but like, nuts when you're on your period are amazing for racing. And yeah, like, when you're racing, I feel like it's very easy to like think that your period is worse than what it actually is, but really it's just like how you're training with it. So again, maybe try and wear a dark race suit, maybe try and avoid like the neon pink or something, but honestly, you'll be fine. When I was younger, I used to struggle a lot with like iron deficiency, so I wanted to talk about this totally separate. And because I was a distance swimmer, having low iron meant that my hemoglobin wasn't properly functioning, and it's just not the best to be iron deficient as a distance athlete. Like, I've always been a distance athlete. My main event went from the 800 free to the 1500 free to randomly the 200 back to now being open water. So like, I've always generally been distance orientated, but when you're training a lot, that's a lot of aerobic capacity, and if you're iron deficient, then your aerobic capacity isn't going to function as well. So yeah, like, I remember so many races when I was like, I think it was when I was like 14, I used to really struggle with iron deficiency, especially on my period. Now you can get iron tablets so cheap, like you can pick them up from Tesco's and Sainsbury's and stuff like that, like, and because it's just so common. Obviously make sure that they're not containing any banned substances, because, you know, that wouldn't be great. You don't want to be popping what you think is iron and actually be popping like anabolic steroids or something. But yeah, like, being iron deficient is such a big thing, especially in swimmers, that like, because of the way that swimming is, like, it is a very aerobic sport, and you do want to make sure that you're like able to process, like, your body's able to process stuff properly. So even sprinters, like, you use your aerobic system to recover. So like, just my advice would be, you can never have too much iron, especially when you're on your period. Like, spinach, broccoli, like, I mean, I'm vegan, but red meats, like, honestly, just try and get so much vitamin D in, and it will help so much. I know that I used to run the risk of that, and I used to get really pale and dizzy because of it, and like, obviously I used to race like 800s, 1500s all the time, so like that didn't really help. But yeah, like, honestly, make sure that you're up on your iron. Spinach, definitely. I used to have spinach, like I used to just throw like 4 handfuls of spinach in a smoothie, and you honestly can't taste it. Especially when you throw, like, obviously don't just blend spinach and milk, like blend, like, imagine that, like put fruit in it as well. So I used to have like strawberry, banana, a little bit of peanut butter for the healthy fats, some oats, and like 4 handfuls of spinach. And then while I was having that, I'd have iron supplement as well, just because I knew that I used to really struggle with low iron when I was younger. And my last little thing is tracking. I feel like obviously when you're younger and you first start your period, like, it's really hard to know when you're going to get your period, but knowing when your period is going to come is like a massive saving grace. You don't want to be like surprised. Like, say you're at a really important meet that's like, say you're at Snags for the Scottish people, Scottish National Age Groups, it's like a week long. You don't want to go and then day 3 comes and you get your period and you're like, oh my goodness, I was not prepared for this. Tracking is so underrated. I use FitR app, but I used to use, I think it was called Clue. But the reason why I changed to this one, because it gives you like little things like about like how training is and how to fuel your training, and like this one's telling me about anti-inflammatory focus, like being antioxidant focused, restore iron levels, blood sugar. And I just think that this is such a good one for athletes to have. Like, it's telling me about training. It says training tip: throughout this phase, maximum training benefit may come from HIIT and strength training. The anti-inflammatory and antioxidant properties of moderate exercise can help to reduce symptoms associated with menstruation. Like, it's just such a good app for like athletes, and I 10 out of 10 recommend this. Not sponsored, but yeah, definitely make sure that you're tracking your period, because you don't want to have any surprises. So yeah, I hope this video has been helpful. I don't know why I randomly started playing with a tennis ball. At one point I was playing with a tampon, at one point I was playing with a period cup. But anyway, if you have any more questions, please either Instagram me them at Duds2Swim or drop them in the comments below. I'm totally happy to talk about periods, talk about like my experience with having a period. Like, I'm a girl, I think we've all assumed that I have a period. It would be really worrying if I didn't. But yeah, anyway, I hope this video has been somewhat helpful. I hope that it has helped some young swimmers, and please be sure to give this video a thumbs up if it did. Click the subscribe button to see more videos from me. I post a lot of swimming related videos, I post a lot of university related, the occasional cycling video, but yeah, like, please be sure to subscribe and turn the notification bell on so that you get notified whenever I post a video. I post every Monday at 11, but sometimes I post an extra random one. But yeah, please guys, stay safe, look after yourself, wash your hands, do all that stuff, and have an amazing day. That's the most important thing.